What is going on, everybody? We are back. The Premier League is back, and here are my preseason predictions for the 25-26 season. I'm going to be going through all of it. I'm going to be going through the table. I'm going to be giving you, some awards winners like the Player of the Season, the Golden Boot, etc. And then I'm going to be throwing some spicy ones in there like the cups, first manager to get sacked. There's all this big stuff that I'm going to be predicting today. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video, comment what hot takes you have for this upcoming season, because there's going to be some spicy things. There's going to be some things that no one would really expect. And I'm not gonna lie, I've got a couple of bold predictions in here that a lot of people might disagree with. But yeah, let's get into it. I'm gonna be also making a video right after this where I predict the first weekend of Premier League fixtures. I'm going to be doing it every single week. I'm going to try and take it very seriously this season. And yeah, let's get into it. All right, starting off at 20th, rock bottom of my table is Burnley. And I think a lot of people are going to have Burnley last. Obviously, they're coming off a very good season in the Championship. They cracked 100 points and didn't win the league. But I think they're miles off it. I don't think they have nearly enough. Obviously, Scott Parker doesn't have a great record in the Premier League. And I look at that squad and I just think, where are the goals going to come from? Because I do think that at times they could be decent defensively. I don't think they'll concede the most goals in the Premier League. That might be another team towards the bottom. But I don't know where the goals come from. Like, if you look at the players that they've got, that Broja guy from Chelsea, he is absolute pony. I don't really see what he's gonna do. I don't see anyone else in that squad that really scores goals, that really creates goals. I just think they're really gonna struggle. I'll be surprised if they crack 20 points. We'll put it that way. And then 19th, a lot of people are gonna disagree with this, but I'm going Sunderland. Like, I know they've done a lot of really good business and everyone's super excited about Sunderland. I'm personally excited for some of the players they've got, like Granit Xhaka especially. That's probably the best signing they could have made. But I think what people are forgetting when they look at how much money Sunderland are spending is that they needed to spend that money. Like, if you look at the championship table from last season, they were miles off the best teams in it. Like, obviously, Leeds and Burnley both finished with 100 points. I think Sheffield United finished like 12 points or something behind them. And then Sunderland were quite a bit behind that. Sunderland, it was an absolute miracle that they were able to get in the Premier League. No one was really expecting it. And they had to spend more money than everyone else to even stand a chance. And I do think that Sunderland could potentially have a good start to the season, or they will challenge some teams. But I still don't think that their squad is of Premier League quality. And I don't think there's anything they really could have done to get ready for the Premier League. It's just really tough when, we've got 17 Premier League teams that are entering their fourth consecutive season in the Premier League minimum. Like that, it's just going to get even harder. The longer that these newly promoted teams keep going down, the more difficult it'll get, because the more money these Premier League clubs will have. Because staying in the Premier League gets you more money, and that gap gets higher and higher and higher, or larger and larger and larger, I should say, the longer that you're in the Prem. So, whilst I do like Sunderland, I'm going to watch quite a bit of them next season. I don't really see how they're going to do it. Then 18th, this is the shock one. Pretty much all summer I was thinking, yeah, everyone's, talking about Leeds and Sunderland, but it'll probably just be the three that came up that go straight back down. I've changed my mind. In 18th, I'm going with Brentford. They're obviously coming off a very, very good season, but I can't look at the losses that they've got. A lot of other Premier League teams have lost players, but I think it's so significant with Brentford because the two key players for their team that they've lost are hands down Mbeumo and Norgard. Obviously, there were a lot of rumours that Vissa could leave. I don't know what's happening with Vissa right now. He could stay, he could go. He's being linked to Newcastle. If he goes, they're absolutely screwed. But Mbeumo, he was one of the best attackers in the Premier League last season. And then Norgard is an underrated one because he's their captain. They've literally just lost their club captain. Everyone talks about Damsgaard as, the main midfield player, but Norgard was very, very big for them. I'm not just a biased Arsenal fan saying that. But then I think the one that hurts them even more than than those two, isn't even a player. It's Thomas Frank. I mean, they've lost probably their greatest ever manager in the club's history. I don't know. I don't follow Brentford that closely. I don't really know their history, but I know that Thomas Frank has done wonders for that club in the time that he's been there, and they're replacing him with their set piece coach. Their set piece coach. Like, they couldn't even keep one of their other assistants. They all left. They couldn't go, grab another manager in Europe. No, their set piece coach. And I think when you go from Thomas Frank, who I rate so highly, and you're going to see that when, spoiler alert, I'm going to have Spurs higher than a lot of people do. You're going to see that there. But I just don't see how replacing him with your set piece coach is going to set them up for success. Maybe they surprise me. I don't think they'll do it. And then 17th, that's sort of going to be the relegation battle. I don't think anyone else is really going to be in it once we get to the later points of the season. I'm going with Leeds. I think Leeds are going to be the ones to stay up. I just think when you look at their team from last season, they were hands down better than the other two. Even though they finished on the same amount of points as Burnley, that was largely to James Trafford, and now he's gone. Like if you actually watch Leeds play compared to Burnley, Leeds were a much better team than Burnley. They had much better control over games than Burnley. Burnley were basically just parking the bus. No, not really parking the bus, but they just conceded a very little amount of goals, and it was largely because of James Trafford, who's now gone. And I think that Leeds are a much better team than Burnley. Whilst they haven't done as much business, I think Sean Longstaff is the first one I can think of. He's a Premier League proven midfielder. The only concern I have with them is the manager. I don't know if Daniel Farke, his Premier League record isn't great. But then again, I look at Leeds' team, and I think that this is the best crack he's had at it. Like, I think, I can remember the Norwich team he had. Like, that team was trash. Like, that team was really, really bad. They never had a chance. Maybe Leeds do end up going down, and I think if I was to get anything in this bottom four wrong, it would be Leeds going down and all three of them heading straight back to the Championship. But I'm gonna go with my heart. I'm gonna trust Leeds because they're an established Premier League club, and even though everyone hates Leeds, the Premier League would be better if Leeds are there. So I'm gonna go with Leeds in 17th. All right, 16th. I've got Wolverhampton Wanderers. Now, my opinion on Wolves has changed a lot over the past 4 or 5 months, because for a lot of last season, they were absolutely stinky. And I was watching Wolves play, and I was like, if these stay up, then they will give a chance to all those newly promoted teams. I thought all season that whilst I did know Wolves would be safe, because we saw probably one of the worst relegated class of teams ever. Like, those 3 teams were really, really bad. And I looked at Wolves and I'm like, yep, next season you're going down. But then they got in Victor Pereira and things started to change. They started to win games. They went on a massive unbeaten run towards the end of the season. I think they had like a 5-game winning streak or something. And I do believe in Wolves now. I think Victor Pereira has done a very, very good job with that Wolves team. And I do think, what I will say is, I think they'll have a similar season to last season. I think they will struggle early. I think early on in the season, like first half, they'll be in the relegation battle. And that's probably due to the fact that they've lost Cunha and Aït-Nouri. But then you look at the rest of their team, I think it's decently solid. And whilst Cunha's going to be a massive loss for them, like he was incredible for Wolves, I think that Aït-Nouri, a lot of their defensive issues were coming on his side. He's a decent fullback, but I don't rate him as highly as other people do. So I actually think that the Wolves might be a very solid team next season towards the end of the season. I think they could have a very similar season that they just came off of. And I don't think once we get to, the February, March sort of area in the season, I don't think they'll really be threatened by relegation. I think it'll be the 4 below them. I think a very similar sort of position in the table to Wolves. Maybe they'll be pushing a bit further up. I'm going to go West Ham. I just don't really rate anything that they've done recently. A year ago, I along with a lot of other people, was so high on West Ham. Like, they had such a good summer. They signed like Tadibo, they signed Krug. Everyone was talking about, they signed Somerville. Everyone was talking about the business they were doing, and it just didn't work. They had an absolute howler of a season. They sacked Julian Lopetegui. Now they've got Graham Potter, and he's a decent manager, but he doesn't really move you, does he? Like, you don't look at Graham Potter and think he's going to work wonders with this West Ham team. They didn't really have a new manager bounce under him. Like, it was all pretty toxic. And with the business that I'm hearing they could do, they've sold Kudus, who, whilst his numbers weren't incredible, I thought he was probably their best player last season. Whilst they sold Kudus, they're looking at what? Callum Wilson? Fabio Vieira? Please take Fabio Vieira. The guy sucks. Yeah, I don't really think the West Ham are going to improve massively. I think it's going to be a difficult season for them. And it's more because I look above them and maybe there are some circumstances where I see some of these other teams dropping down. But I don't really think that West Ham give me a lot of confidence that they can finish above a huge chunk of these teams. So they're going to be around the 15th mark anyway. Maybe I'm lowballing it a little bit. Maybe they finish, 14th, 13th. But I don't see them getting close to the top half. I just think their team, they've got a lot of very overrated players. Paqueta's one of them. I don't rate Paqueta very highly at all. And I think it's going to be another season where West Ham struggle. I'm not going as far as some other people that have said that West Ham are going to get relegated. I think that is very, very harsh. I don't think that they're going to be quite as bad because they do have some talent, like Paqueta and Tadibo and these players. Like, they are good. They are good players. Aaron Wan-Bissaka is another one. I do like that left back that they got from was it Red Star Belgrade? I don't even remember. They got some left back who apparently he's looked good in pre-season. But yeah, I've got West Ham in 15th. I just checked. It was Slavia Prague. I'm an idiot. Moving on to 14th. This is probably my boldest prediction of this video. And I've got Nottingham Forest finishing 14th. Look, you can call me an idiot all you want, but this Nottingham Forest team is not actually that good. And we saw it in the back end of last season. Teams were starting to figure him out. I think a lot of their players overachieved massively. I don't think that Sells is going to be the best keeper in the league again. I don't think Chris Wood is actually a very good striker. He had a very, very good season. But I don't think he's actually that good. I think there are a lot of strikers in the Premier League, like Mateta, like Ollie Watkins, who you just take over him. And I don't even rate Ollie Watkins that highly. There are a lot of areas of their team that I think still will be very good. And, Anderson's one of them. There's also the centre-backs I think are quite good. But I just don't look at that team. I think with Elanga, with the loss of Elanga, I think that they're going to get figured out. I think a lot of teams are going to realise that you just can't give them space in behind. If you just play very defensively against them, not necessarily sit behind the ball, but make sure that you're tight at the back and don't give them a lot of space to run into, they can't really create any chances. Like, Gibbs White's a good player. They would have been locked into this 14th position if they lost Gibbs White, but even with him, I don't think he's a massive needle mover for them. He's a very, very good player, but again, another player I think is quite overrated. But yeah, I've got Nottingham Forest in 14th position. Moving on to 13th, I've got Bournemouth. Bournemouth are a team that they've been quite a polarizing team because Bournemouth have been absolutely decimated. Like, their whole defense, Kepa's gone to Arsenal, Huijsen's gone to Madrid, Zubani's gone PSG, Kerkez has gone Liverpool. Like, they've lost their entire back line. However, I just think Iraola is a top manager, and I could actually see them. I'm looking further up the table than I'm looking down, and that might sound weird. I think Bournemouth. I think anyone that's saying that relegation is a threat, absolutely not. I don't think Bournemouth are even going to be thinking about relegation. I think 13th is a good position for them. Now that I've thought about it, I don't really see many of the teams above them finishing that low. So yeah, I've got Bournemouth finishing 13th. I just think that whilst their defense has been decimated, apparently a lot of the players they've signed are pretty good. They've still got the likes of like Atara, they've got Ivan Nilsson, they've got Semenyo they were able to hold on to and give him a massive contract. They've got Justin Kluivert. And then even in defense, like Senesi's a good player. Petrovic from Chelsea. I liked him a lot when he was at Chelsea. I don't know why Chelsea didn't stick with him. I actually think he's better than some of the keepers that they have used. But yeah, I've got Bournemouth in 13th. And then 12th, I've got Everton. I don't know why people are saying Everton are going to finish in the bottom 5. Bro, what are we doing? Like, Under Deitch, they were horrid to watch. They were so shit. They sat behind the ball all game. And then Moyes came in, and he was a revolution. He was a revelation. Like, I think they went on like one of the longest unbeaten runs from the point when he came in. Like, I think the fuck. I think that they went on a massive unbeaten run when he was there. I think they only lost a couple of games. They had a really good record after Moyes came in, and I think he's just going to do a really good job with Everton. He's going to take them one step closer to where they should be, because Everton are a massive club, and I don't think relegation is an issue for them. It's not going to be an issue for them for a while. I think with their new stadium as well, maybe there could be something to do with that. But they're going to make it into a fortress. They're going to turn it into a fortress just like Goodison Park was. And yeah, Everton, they don't have to worry. 11th, I'm going to go Fulham. Another team I'm actually pretty high on, all things considered. I've seen people putting Fulham lower. I just think they've got a pretty underrated squad. Like, I mean, you look at that midfield, it's pretty good. You look at that defense, it's pretty solid. In my opinion, they've got the best left back in the league. They've got decent defenders like Anderson, Diop's okay, Calvin Bassey. If you look at their attack, Iwobi is still a very good, consistent midfielder. The only thing is both their strikers, I think, aren't good. I don't really know, to be honest, how much business Fulham have done. They're interested in Raheem Sterling. They've got Reece Nelson, who was actually quite good for them, and Reece Nelson's looked very good for Arsenal in pre-season when he's played. I think Emil Smith-Rowe is going to have a good year. He was a little bit underwhelming. I thought he was going to do a lot better at Fulham, but hopefully now that he's had a full season to get used to it, he'll do better. Their squad, it's decent. I think this is probably their ceiling. This is me saying that I think Fulham are going to have like a really good season for their standard. And I just think that Marco Silva is just a very good manager. Like, he's done very well. When they got promoted, he's had them not really close to relegation at all. Like, he's done a really good job with that Fulham team. And I think it's just going to continue. Maybe they drop a little bit further down the table. Maybe I've lowballed Forest or West Ham or something like that, and they drop a bit lower, but yeah, I think the Fulham are going to be a really solid team and are going to be 11th. And then 10th, I've got Crystal Palace. Palace are a weird one because they could genuinely be like competing for Europe with their squad, but then they could also be down the bottom half like quite significantly, because we just don't know what's going to happen with their business. Like, I'm recording this on the 13th of August, which is about 3 days, bro. The Premier League's almost here. Which is a few days before the start of the season. There's still questions on whether Eze is going to Spurs. Yeah, Spurs. I wanted him in Arsenal desperately. He might go to Spurs. Gahey's got heavy links to Liverpool, so I don't really know. I'm going to go Palace 10th, but I think that I could flip-flop on how I feel about them. These are my final predictions. They're locked in anyway. I still do have a feeling that Eze is going to stay. Gahey, I'm not so sure about. Maybe Liverpool try and pursue him next summer. Because if I was Crystal Palace, I would just keep both of them. I wouldn't sell either of them because they're in the Conference League, a competition that they can go win. If they lose Gahey for free, I don't think that'll be too bad for them, because I think they're gonna win the Conference League and they're gonna be back in the Europa League and they're gonna have more money to spend on their squad. They've just won an FA Cup. I think with the squad you've got right now, you can compete. Because with the likes of Gahey, with the likes of Eze, Lacroix, Munoz, Henderson, Mateta, like, they've got a really nice team. Sa as well on the right wing. They've just got a very solid team. I forgot about Adam Wharton. He's going to be one of the best midfielders in the league next season. I'm just super high on Palace. Glasner's a top manager. He's a winner. He's won an FA Cup with Palace, won a Europa League. Yeah, I think the sky's the limit for Palace, really. I think they could win another trophy, a European competition. And yeah, if I was them, I'd keep both Gahey and Eze. If they both leave, then maybe they have time before the end of the window. If they sell them both this week, then maybe they can bring in replacements. But I still think their team is very good. Like, even without Gahey, they've still got Lacroix. They've still got, Lacroix at the back. Yeah, I just think Palace are a really good team. Now, 9th. This one's kind of tough because all these teams in the top 9, I think they're sort of in it's a bit weird. Like I think that there's a lot of from ninth to fifth. I think you can put these in any order you really want. Some of them I'd maybe look past, but ninth I've got Manchester United. I'm gonna get a lot of backlash for this one. I don't actually think it's that crazy a take. I mean, United finished 15th last season, didn't win a trophy, and yes, they've made some great signings. Cunha and Mbeumo are the players they needed. Premier League proven players. They're not taking a punt on random talents from other leagues like Xerxes, who scored fucking 11 goals or whatever in Serie A. They're not taking these punts. They're signing Premier League proven players that are going to do well. They're not going to be a massive failure. Maybe Mbeumo's a one season wonder or something like that, but I don't see that happening. And Sesko as well, I didn't want him for Arsenal, but I think for United, he's a young striker who can develop, build them for the future. I think that's a really, really good signing for them. And yes, they did miss chances. Yes, they did lack goals. I think they only scored 44 goals in the league last season. So bringing in a £200 million front three is going to do wonders for them. And I could see them potentially pushing up the table if the likes of Sesko has an elite season, if Cunha and Mbeumo continue their form, if they do their remaining business. This is assuming that they don't sign anyone else, because they could sign Donnarumma and Baleba, and if they do that, I think they'll be closer to 4th than 9th. Like, I think Baleba would be so big for them. Donnarumma, the upgrade from Onana to Donnarumma is massive. This is just assuming that they don't make any new signings. But I think there's still a lot of holes. And I don't know if it's got to do with Amorim as a manager, the way he, approaches games tactically. I just think that this team's got a lot of issues. I just think that, that in terms of, defensively, they're okay. They're okay defensively. They've got, like, Lenny Yoro, who's a great young centre-back. Mazraoui's pretty good. They've got Martinez coming back, who I don't really rate. But it's that midfield. It's the way that they progress the ball through that midfield. And off the ball as well. It's so easy to play through. That's why I think Baleba would be such a good signing for them. I think I've had this sort of opinion for the last few weeks. I think Baleba would have been a more important signing than Sesko. Because yes, whilst they don't really have a striker, there's so many issues with that midfield. Like Cunha and Mbeumo, they get you goals. But the rest of that midfield is a problem. Like Ugarte, Casemiro, for some reason Amorim doesn't like Kobbie Mainoo, and their best player doesn't fit in their system. Like I really don't get it. If they get Baleba and Donnarumma, they could be higher, but for now, I'm going 9th. Alright, 8th, we've got Aston Villa. Now, these ones are a bit weird, because at the end of last season, I said that they had to get Champions League football, or else they'd struggle. And I think that's proven right. They haven't really done anything in the transfer window, nothing that's moved me. They've got a lot of issues with their PSR, which is why they haven't been able to do any business, so I don't see them really doing much. And I just think that a lot of these, I think they're going to have a down season in the Premier League. I just look at their squad and it's like, I don't think they've not got the depth. They've got decent players like Tielemans, like Watkins, Rodgers, I rate. But then if they get a few injuries, I don't really see how they're going to respond to that. And Emery I rate, but I think he's overachieved with that squad. And I don't know if that's necessarily sustainable. Like, I don't think that can continue. Granted, I think that they could do well in Europe. I could actually see him winning the Europa League with them, because that's what Emery does, except at Arsenal. Like, he wins the Europa League. So I could maybe see them doing something similar to what Spurs did, although not to the same extent, where they sort of suck off the league towards the end and just focus on going all out for the Europa League, because I don't see them getting Champions League football, really. Maybe they could finish 5th. I think that would be like the absolute ceiling for them. But I think their best bet would be to win the Europa League, and I think that they might. I don't really look at any of the other teams in the Europa League and think that they're that strong. There will be someone. But yeah, I think that's definitely a trophy that Aston Villa could go for. And because of that, I'm going to go 8th. And then 7th, this is another decently hot take. I'm going Newcastle. Isak is not going to play for Newcastle again. If I did this a week ago, I would have probably had Newcastle 5th. But Isak has said he does not wish to play for Newcastle, so it's either they sell him and have a very limited time to spend the money that they get for him, or he just doesn't play. And he just stays in the reserves and doesn't play. Which neither of those things would really be beneficial. Yes, they've got a very good team. Their midfield is exceptional. They've signed Elanga, they've signed Ramsdale, who's obviously a decent keeper. But again, I just don't really see. I think that they're going to have a similar season to Villa. They're just going to have a down season. Also, Newcastle don't really cope well with, you know, 2 games a week consistently. Last time they were in Europe, they did absolutely horrible in Europe, although they were in a really tough group, I remember. They didn't do great in the league. That's why they didn't have any European football last season. And yeah, I think Newcastle are going to struggle a little bit. I could see them, doing okay early on maybe, although it'll take them a while to adjust without having Isak. And they do have great players, but I don't know. They've had an absolute nightmare of a transfer window, and I think that they will struggle. Now moving on to the top 6, and this might be a massive surprise to some people, although you would have figured it out by now. 6th, I've got Brighton. I'm so high on this Brighton team. I think Fabian Hersler is such a good manager. I think they went under the radar last season. Like, there was a period where they could have gotten European football if, I think they needed Chelsea to lose their last few games and win the Conference League, and then they could have gotten into the Conference League. I can't remember exactly how it worked, but Brighton finished one spot outside of European football when I wasn't expecting them to have a very good season. I didn't know if picking Fabian Hersler to replace De Zerbi was the right choice. It worked. This is assuming that they keep Carlos Baleba. He's absolutely fantastic. And even if they lose him, Brighton have shown in the past that they can replace players. I don't trust teams like Brentford in that to massively replace their star players. Yes, they have kind of done it before as well. I'm sounding like a bit of a hypocrite. But Wolves are an example. What have Wolves shown you that it's yeah, okay, they can consistently, play at this top level, losing players. Brighton lost players last few seasons. Last couple of seasons, they've lost McAllister, they've lost Evan Ferguson, they've lost Caicedo. They've lost players. And they've been able to replace them. So I don't think losing João Pedro is really going to affect them that much. They've still got so much talent in that team. Even going forward, they've got Minter and Jorginho Ruta. They are top players. Danny Welbeck is coming off his best Premier League season, which I can't believe I'm saying that. And then their back line's pretty solid. I really rate that keeper. Verbruggen, yeah, I just think Brighton are going to be a very, very good team next season. They're going to be one to watch. And yeah, that's why I've got Brighton in my top 6. Assuming that's probably going to be a Europa League spot. If the top 5 get Champions League football, and even if 5th spot doesn't, as long as one of the UCL teams wins the FA Cup, then that will also be a Europa League spot. But moving to 5th, I've got Spurs. Yeah, I've got Spurs quite high. A lot of people have Spurs in the 8th, 9th range. I can't see it. I think that their squad is so much better than they showed at times last season, and I think that's why they ended up winning the Europa League. I think under Ange, their defensive record was really, really bad. And I think with Thomas Frank coming in, he's going to make them much more stable at the back. And I know that Brentford conceded a lot of goals as well. But he didn't have Romero, who I think is a world-class defender. He didn't have Van de Ven, Porro. These are all very, very good players. I think Polina as well. They finally have a number 6. He's going to come in, help their defensive stability. The only worry that I had with Tottenham was the injuries. Obviously, James Maddison out for the whole season. Kulusevski's injured for a little bit. I'm hearing now that Solanke could be injured. But I think especially if they sign Eze and Savinho, they could get both of them in. If they get both of them in, they are a lock for 5th. A lock for 5th. Because if you have, Eze and Savinho, and then Solanke, Kulusevski, and Maddison are all out, and those are 3 of their best attackers, you could still go Savinho, Eze, Kudus, and Tel maybe. Maybe that's the front 3. That's not even including Brennan Johnson. You might not even play Savinho. You might go Kudus right wing, Eze 10, Johnson left, Tel up front. They've got so many options in attack now. And whilst none of them I think are absolute world beaters, Eze is, whilst none of them have proven that they're absolute world beaters, although Kulusevski is too, they've got a very, very good team. And I think that if they just keep their squad fit, because last 2 seasons under Ange, the injuries were absolutely atrocious. And I think that now their injuries are going to be reduced because Ange, he has them playing very chaotic football where there's constant running. And a lot of the injuries were recurring hamstring injuries, which a lot of it comes from the style of play. And I think that with Frank in, he's going to do wonders with this Spurs team. I don't think they've got enough to push up that top four. When they had that week where they signed Kudus and Gibbs White, although that deal fell through, I'm like, okay, they're doing business. They're backing Frank. I could actually see them maybe breaking into the top four, but they haven't had so far, the dream summer. It could be close to that if they get these last two deals in. But yeah, I rate their team very, very highly. I think they're going to finish fifth. Now moving on to the top four, which I think everyone's going to have pretty much the same teams in the top four. It's really just about the order. I honestly think pretty much all these teams in the top four can be rearranged in any way. The only thing maybe is I don't think the team who I have in fourth really have a shot at winning the league, and that's Chelsea. I could see Chelsea pushing for the Premier League title, but I don't really see a way that they win it just because they still have quite an inexperienced squad. I know that winning the Conference League and the Club World Cup is going to boost their experience and their mentality a lot, because I think a big problem Chelsea had was their mentality. They had a very good start to the season, sort of first 10 to 12 games, and then they kept saying, we're not in a title race, and they didn't really come close to it. And then they celebrated, finishing in the top four a lot heavier than they should. I still think they're a very good team. They've done a lot of business. Obviously, Xavi Simons could still come in. Is there anyone else that they're really looking at bringing in that they haven't already got done? They've had a massive summer. They've brought in the likes of Joao Pedro, the likes of Liam Delap. They've got Joel Harto, who he was going to be a depth option, but now he might have to start a lot of games because of Levi Colwill's injury. I think they've got a lot of attacking options. Gittins is great. Oh yeah, Garnacho is the other one they could sign. Stay away. And then, Cole Palmer and Estevao. I think those two in attack are going to cause Premier League defenses a lot of issues. So they've really got a lot of great players. I still think Moises Caicedo is a world-class six. I think he's probably their best player, even ahead of Cole Palmer, I would say. The only thing for me is the defensive spine, and that's why I can't see Chelsea winning the league. That sort of defensive spine area of Sanchez, Chalobah, and Hato, would it be? What other defenders they have? Wesley Fofana, no Levi Colwill, and even if Levi Colwill was fit, I would still include him in this. I don't see that as a title-winning defense. Maybe the only thing that they would be holding on to that could get them second is if two of the other three teams have poor seasons and don't really push for the league. I think if City, Arsenal, and Liverpool all have their best seasons, I'll put it this way: if everyone plays their best possible football that they can play with their current teams, Chelsea are fourth. They're just sort of holding on to, okay, we have to play really, really good, and we need these other teams to play a bit shit. That's what they're holding on to, and I could see those other three teams winning the league, but Chelsea, it's like, nah, not for me. I don't really see them doing it. I don't think they've got enough. Moving on to third, I hate to say it, but I'm going Arsenal. I think that we're still a signing away, man. I think that we've had a very, very good window, but at the same time, we haven't really added much X factor. Gyökeres, he's a bit of X factor. He's a player that we didn't even have anything close to. Bringing him to lead the line is something that Arsenal fans have been going on about for ages, really since Aubameyang left. We've wanted a striker. And whilst I think a lot of the other signings we've made have been upgrades, I think that Norgard and Zubimendi is an upgrade from Jorginho and Partey. Zubimendi is absolutely amazing. He's going to be one of the signings to watch. And Norgard, he's just going to be able to play more minutes than Jorginho. He's a lot better defensively. Mosquera as well. He's come in to replace Tomiyasu, I think, although I would view him as more of a centre-back. I hope that we don't lose Kivior. I think that defence is great. I do think we're going to have the best defense in the league again. But it's the left winger or 10. It's like some X factor. Those players, they're being brought in to either replace other players or be rotational players, or both. Whereas if we still have to rely on Martinelli and Trossard and start on the left wing, my only hope is that Madueke surprises me. I don't rate him. I'm not that happy with the signing. He's looked good in preseason, the minutes that he's played. My only hope is that Madueke surprises everyone and is really, really good on that left-hand side. Other than that, I don't really see how we can get, lots of production on that side of the pitch, unless we go and sign Eze or Leao or Rodrigo. Although it looks like he's going to go to City. But yeah, this is all, again, based off of the teams right now. More business could happen. But yeah, I'm going Arsenal in third. Second, our spot. I'm giving it to Manchester City. I was so close to having them as title winners. And if they get Rodrigo, yep, I'm sold. And it's because of Pep Guardiola. It's because of their manager. Because Pep doesn't finish outside the top two in consecutive seasons. He just doesn't do it. In fact, he doesn't even go trophyless or leagueless in consecutive seasons. He pretty much always wins the league. But and I think that they've got, I'll get to that in a sec. I think they've massively improved their midfield and their attack. Bringing in the likes of Ryan Shirky is really going to help them going forward. They've got a full season of Marmoush. People need to remember that Marmoush was probably their best player when he came in. And in the second half of the season, City actually were the best team in the league. If you look at the stats, they had the most points after Christmas, even more than Liverpool. They were the best team in the league from that point. And if you take that City team, the way they were playing, plus the new signings they made, I think Reinders is a massive needle mover. Him and Rodri back in that midfield. Obviously Rodri is going to be injured for the start of the season, but if those two can click in that midfield, they're going to dominate teams. The only thing for me that has me skeptical and putting them in second is their defense. I think that their defense is quite poor. Diaz and Gvardiol are a good centre-back pairing. I like Gvardiol. Diaz last season wasn't at his level, but if he can get back to his best, they've got other options as well, like Kusanov, like Akanji. They've got Nathan Ake. They've got like other players that can do a job in defense, but it's the fullbacks, bro. Like Mateus Nunes at right back. What are you going to do? Put Kusanov there? Like, no, you don't have a proper right back. And then the left back, Ain't Nori. I said it before when I was talking about Wolves. I don't rate him. Think about this. Who have they got playing on the left? They've got, like, left side of attack, I mean. You've got Doku, you've got Marmoush, maybe Foden. Who there tracks back? If Ain't Nori is so high up the pitch, who there tracks back? No one. If they come up against, like, in Manchester derbies, I'm telling you this, don't be surprised if United beat them again, because they've got Diallo and Mbeumo on that right-hand side. Bro, they're going to get absolutely cooked on that side. So yeah, I think they're going to score a bunch of goals. They're going to have control of games, but they don't keep clean sheets. A counter-attack and they're done. Trafford's a good signing, but we don't know how he's going to translate to the Premier League. Last time he was in the Premier League, he wasn't very good. Edison looks like he's on his way. Apparently, they're looking at Donnarumma. He could end up at either Manchester club, which if they get Donnarumma, it's not a signing that I think is absolutely necessary, but it would go from the goalkeeper being like a maybe it works to a yes, it's definitely working. And that's why I've got City in second, just off the league title. If they sign another defender, maybe. But first is Liverpool. Like, as much as I didn't want to give it to Liverpool, I wanted to pick someone else. I don't think you can really explain to me why Liverpool are worse than any of these other teams. They have to be the favourites. And if you look at the business they've done, I mean, they might not be finished. They might go get Isak and Guehi. If they get Isak and Guehi, it's wraps. They could not be on for a treble. But I mean, watching Ekatike in that Community Shield, like, he's so techie. He's so unbelievably techie. Yeah, he isn't the greatest finisher, but he's a young striker. Like, that comes with time. That finish against Palace was pretty good. And then when you've got Salah, Wirtz, and Gakpo with him, like, that is an insane front four. I remember 2 years ago, everyone was talking about Liverpool's attack and how it wasn't that good. End of the 23-24 season, they couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. Diaz was in horrible form. Salah was in horrible form. Gakpo wasn't playing that well. You've now got Wirtz, Salah, who I think is going to be an informed Gakpo and Ekatike. Bro, that team's insane. And then the defence, I mean, they've got a guy who was arguably the best left back in the league last season in Kirkez. They lost Trent, replaced him with Frimpong. The creativity's there with Wirtz. I think the team is so solid. The only thing that maybe could happen is if they get injuries in positions that lack depth, because they still could use another six. Because if they can't play Gravenberch as much as they do, and they don't really have any other options there. Maybe Curtis Jones, but I didn't really like the look of him the other day. Virgil van Dijk as well, but if they get Gay, that's not really going to be a problem. I think they've got such a strong squad. And unless we see clear decline from some of their older players like Salah or Van Dijk, unless those two, unless their form plummets like everyone's been saying it would for ages, I just don't really know how anyone could really compete with them. As of right now, obviously, these other teams could massively overachieve and they could get a lot out of players that we don't know about. There's still a lot that could happen. No one thought Liverpool were going to win the league last year with the squad that they had. Some tactical tweaks could change a lot. But yeah, for me, I've got Liverpool winning the league, and I think most people would. So yeah, that is my league table predictions. I think most of it is pretty tame. There were a few big calls that I made. Probably Forest 14th and then United 9th. Those were probably the two big ones. Maybe Brentford going down. But other than that, I think most of it was pretty settled. I'm going to change my mind a month into the season, I know, because there's going to be so many transfers that still haven't happened yet. And then the teams I think are going to be good are going to look shit. And then fucking watch Sunderland are going to win their first 6 games, something insane. But yeah, that is my table predictions. All right, next up we've got the awards. I'm going to also be sprinkling in some extra stuff. Golden Boot. Yeah, it's Haaland. Oh my god, wow. I'm such a hipster. It's going to be Haaland again. I do think Salah will experience some kind of drop off because there's no way he's going to have a 47 GA season again. I think Haaland in this new City team, they're going to have more. They're going to create more chances. They're going to score more goals, and I think it's going to be largely due to him. He's still the best striker in the world, in my opinion. Out and out striker. He's going to win the Golden Boot. I think he's going to score about similar to the treble season, really. Well, they'll need that from him if they're going to win the league. He'll probably score 30-ish goals, and I think that'll be enough to win the Golden Boot. I don't really see any other striker or any other forward, I should say, scoring 30 goals. I mean, maybe Salah does it, but if he does, he might. Sorry, Henry, but if Salah scores 30, no, I'm kidding. Playmaker award, always a tough one. These ones are really difficult to predict, although last season, Salah, crazy. I'm going to give it to my boy. I'm going to give it to Saka. He was on track to break the assist record before he got injured, and I don't see why he can't even break it next season. We need that kind of output from him. If it's more, because I don't really view Saka as a goal scoring winger. He does score goals, but I think he's more of a playmaker. He's better as a playmaker, and I think that if we get a lot out of Gyökeres, if we potentially get, I don't know, score more goals from corners or something like that, I do think Saka is going to have a big part to play in that. Obviously, he's our best forward. And yeah, I think he'll win the Playmaker Award. Golden Glove. Do I want to be boring and give it to Raya? No. I'm going to double down with what I said about Spurs. I'm going to say that Vicario, even though I don't even think he's that good a keeper, I think he wins it. I think Spurs' back line is going to keep clean sheets. They couldn't keep clean sheets under Ange. They're going to keep clean sheets under Frank. I still think we're going to have the best defense in the league. But I think clean sheets-wise, I'm just going to give it to Vicario. Sounds crazy, but I think he's going to win the Golden Glove. I don't think that's what the Golden Glove should be. It should just be awarded to the best keeper. That's basically the best, not even the best defense in the league, the defense that concedes goals in the least amount of games. Basically, that's what that award is. Don't know why they give it to the keeper, but anyway, Player of the Season. Player of the Season. I'm giving it to Florian Wirtz. Sounds crazy because I've never watched him play in the Premier League, but I think this guy's that good. I think he walks into the Prem as a top 10 player in the league. If I was to do my top 10 players in the league right now, I wouldn't put him there just because he hasn't played in the Prem, but I'm telling you, this guy, maybe he might not necessarily be the best player in the league, but the way the Player of the Season works is they just give it to the best player on a league-winning team, and I don't think it'll be Salah. Whilst I think Salah's still going to be very, very good, he's going to experience some form of drop-off. I don't think he's going to win it back-to-back. Van Dijk's 34. I think, again, he's going to be good, but he's not going to be as good. And then I just think it's got to be Wirtz, bro. I think Wirtz is that fucking good. This guy is a world-class baller. He's, in my opinion, the best 10 in world football. So he's absolutely the best in the Prem. And yeah, I'd even even some Liverpool fans don't know how truly good he is. Like, everyone knows he's an amazing player, but some people haven't grasped, like, truly how good this guy is. Manager of the season. Look, if Liverpool win the league, they would just give it to Arne Slot. But in terms of what I've predicted, it would have to be Fabian Hersler, right? Like, getting Brighton 6th would be a massive achievement. So whilst they would give it to Slot, I'll say that I think the best manager in the league, like the biggest overachieving manager, would be Hersler. If we look at maybe like the sort of the biggest overachievers and underachievers, Brighton would be the biggest overachievers, and then underachievers, what you'd say, it's like Nottingham Forest, wouldn't you? And then I'll also do new signings as well. I think that the best signing, well, it will be Wirtz because I said he's played the season. But if I'm gonna pick another one, I'm between. You know what? I'm between Reinders and Zubamendi. I'll give it to Reinders. I think Reinders will be the best signing behind Wirtz. It'll obviously be Wirtz because he's going to win them the Premier League. So yeah, those are the awards that I'm going to predict. I don't think there's any other ones I really have to go for. You know, I don't like predicting young player of the season because you can't predict something like that. Like, you can't predict who's going to be the biggest breakout player because I hate the way that they do it. Like, they give it to just the best player under a certain age, which means they could give it to like Palmer. But they're not going to give it. But he's already an established player. I think it should be breakout player. You know, fuck it. Nwaneri. There. Nah, I don't know. I hate predicting that award. I can never think of who to do it. Maybe my ball knowledge is just that bad. And then finally, we've got the cups. These will be my final predictions. I'm going to predict the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, and the Champions League. Not going to bother with Europa League and Conference League because I just don't really watch those competitions much. Carabao Cup. I got to give us something, man. Like, I got to give us something. That's a trophy that we haven't won in, I think, 32 years? Was it 93 that we won it? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And also just to get the whole trophy jokes away from it as early as possible. Like, that's the first final that we'll play. And I think I'm just going to say we win that. I can't predict us to go trophyless. Like, last year I predicted us to win the double. We went trophyless. I have to predict us to win something, surely. I'll go Carabao Cup. FA Cup. I'll go Man City. I mean, again, similar to us, although this one's more of a surely not, whereas for City, it's like, they'll pick up a trophy. They're not going to go trophyless again. And I don't really think they can win the Champions League. And then for the fun of it, Champions League. When I had City winning the league, I had Liverpool winning the Champions League, if that makes sense. But then I don't think they win both. So for Champions League, I'm going to be super, super boring, and I'm going to go Barcelona. I'll just say Barcelona win the Champions League. I think now another season of experience for Lamine Yamal. You know, Rashford, I think, is going to help them a lot. Yes, Rashford's going to win a Champions League. It's going to be amazing. I still question the defense, but I just think Barca will get it done. I think this will be the year Barca win the Champions League. There's my Premier League predictions. Again, tell me in the comments what you think I got right, what you think I got horribly wrong, and give me some of your own predictions. Bring on this new season, man. I'm absolutely pumped.